What is up, everybody? Mark on the mic here. Mr. Ryan Muckenhern to my right.
I know it.
And across from us, we have very special guests, Mr. Brian Wink and Izzy Wink, a father-daughter duo. If you're watching on YouTube, we've got lots of visual aids today. We've got a beautiful elk rack. We have a collar, cartridge case, recovered bullet, an ivory, a rifle, and a great story that you can't see on the table, but you're about to hear it right now. So, additionally, if you're listening to this podcast on launch day and you're a resident of Wisconsin, pay attention because tomorrow the elk application is going to open up. Elk.
I'm in.
I'll hunt both.
You know what? So I got my conservation patron's license the other day.
I did as well.
The day before turkey bonus tags.
I got mine about 5 minutes before.
Because every year I do the same thing. It's like, oh yeah, it's bonus tag day. And then you're like, ah! And you have to go through, because it's kind of you got to jump through a few loops and hoops to get the conservation patron all knocked out.
You got to check a lot of boxes.
And I was very nervous because I didn't see the elk application on there.
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm.
Because they moved the date that the application would open up.
A little bit
later
this year.
And you came to mind because I thought you'll be the only person I've ever met that's ever done this then. And just they moved the date by a few days. So I'm okay. I'm better now.
I will say, I'm going to say this. We're going to let you guys talk here in a minute. So Kellen at Vortex was like, hey, I know this guy. Cool story. Kind of lined up the dots. I reached out to Brian. We coordinated this thing.
Yeah.
We get here with you, and you're like, oh, yeah, I know them. Like, I helped him with the rifle and the scope set. And I was like, you didn't, that wasn't like a...
Actually, Mark, it did come up in conversation.
Well, I don't recall.
Okay.
Brian, Izzy, tell us a little. You didn't have to come far to get here. That's pretty cool. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, and a little bit of the, the story that led up to where we are here right now.
Okay, I'll start. We're residents of Mount Horeb, so just down the road from here. We've been applying since you could in
18,
19.
Yeah,
we started.
That
applying,
sounds about right.
2019, and it's kind of like the lottery, right? You put in, it's a $10 application. 70% of the funds of your $10 go towards maintaining this, maintaining the elk herd and the research and lands behind it. We got a call this last year from the DNR indicating that I was drawn for the tag.
Incredible. So, tell me so they actually, you didn't check the draw results, you got a phone call.
You get a phone call. The DNR calls you, the elk biologist calls you. He makes an individual, reaches out to all the individuals who were selected that year and says, you're one of the lucky 4 residents in the state of Wisconsin that has been drawn for a once-in-a-lifetime tag.
I mean, that's a really, I think, cool and important thing to point out. 4 tags. It's a elk herd. It's thriving. It's growing. It's sustainable, but the hunting is limited. To your general residents of Wisconsin. 4 tags total.
Yep. And how many applications?
Last year was around 26,000. They've had upwards to 50,000 put in for it.
Yeah.
But once you are drawn, you can never be drawn again.
Sure.
So it's a pretty unique opportunity, and I would highly encourage everyone who's a hunter in the state, apply.
Oh, yeah.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
I mean,
at the minimum, you're making a really nice $10 donation. That's what I go, well, I'll buy a little bit of hope, and I'll donate my $10.
Yep.
Right. Everybody buys a lottery ticket. Once it gets way up there, it's like, why don't I throw $10 at
Why
this?
not?
It's worth it.
Yeah.
It's totally worth the experience. And the good that you're doing, the conservation efforts that are going in, keeping all these lands available and resources for the populace, it's a good thing.
Absolutely. So you find out, did you think it was a fake phone call?
At first I did.
I would be like...
I did. Yeah, because I got a phone call and the message behind it just kind of said, hey, I'm this individual. I got something I want to talk to you about. Could you give me a call back? And you don't recognize those kind of numbers. It's like,
Yeah.
What is this?
You're like, my car's warranty is fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm good. So I called the gentleman back, and he told us, that we'd been the recipient of the tag, and I told him, I'm like, this is better than winning the lottery for me. I'm like, to hunt elk in our state, one of 4 people, less than 50 people so far have done this.
Yep.
This is pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so at the end of the day, though, you didn't end up hunting this elk. Well, you did, but you didn't.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So I chose to gift the tag to my daughter and give her the opportunity. So it is.
That is a good dad.
Yeah. we talked about this too. I think you still like a New Mexico elk hunt or
something like
Utah.
that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Yep.
Someday.
But it wasn't as much that whether who's going to pull the trigger. We have the opportunity as a family to go and experience it all together. She could continue to apply for the rest of her life and never get the opportunity. So why not give her that opportunity to do it? And I still get to go along and participate. So I'm getting everything out of the whole experience as well.
Yep.
So it was well worth making that decision and doing it. I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
Well, and this was a family affair. We have got your wife, Lisa. She's off camera right now, but she hunted with you guys as well.
She did, absolutely.
We could get you on here, Lisa, if you want. No? Okay, she's shaking her head.
Yeah, we spent more time than you could imagine up in that area, driving around, scouting everything out, as a family. And then all of us got to go participate in the opening days of the hunt. So our wife was there with us for the first 3 days. And then the last 2 days, it was just her and I and a friend of mine. Then when she was able to harvest it, then it was later.
What did you guys learn about these elk herds in the process? Did you learn a lot that you didn't know beforehand? Was this like a, kind of like a passion project where you were studying up on these critters anyway? Or was it like, oh, we have the tag, we need to learn about these, we need to know where they are, how we're going to hunt them?
I would say I'm an inexperienced elk hunter. I've never hunted elk before. I've always wanted to hunt elk and go through it and figured our hunting opportunities for elk would always be western. Mm-hmm. It would be a spot in stalk. I could go sit up on a ridge in glass and then go pursue them. This is not the case. You are dense northern Wisconsin woods. So your shot opportunities are all going to be really short. Your visibility and sight lines to them are extremely limited. So you can't sit somewhere and call them or watch them. You got to get in where they're at and try and find them and figure out what they're doing. But they do differ so much from deer. A deer's going to move around in a small area. The elk that she harvested was kind of floating around an area that had more than a 3-mile radius. So he could be anywhere within that large area potentially at any point in time. And when it's in the thick timber like that, they can hear you a lot before you can hear them because you're hunting post-rut. And all the leaves are on the ground, and based on the weather conditions, it might be a little bit harder to sneak up on them.
When did the season open?
Middle of October.
Middle of October. Okay.
Yep.
And then how long is it for you guys?
It closed the weekend before gun deer season opened.
Oh, gotcha.
And then it was off until December, and then the last part, individuals, if they weren't able to harvest anything, were able to go back in late December.
Oh, interesting.
So there's a break in there. You'll see that. And fortunately, all 4 of the individuals who had tags this year were successful. The last gentleman, he was able to harvest his bull on the last day of the first group.
Sure.
And I was able to hunt with him for a couple of days. So I was there when he harvested his bull.
Yep.
So I got to kind of participate in half of the hunts this year.
Probably a more experienced Wisconsin elk hunter than anybody else just by numbers on that. You get to double dip on that.
I kind of did.
That's pretty cool.
It was. It was neat to be there.
Yeah, and you guys, I remember when you came in, I think, was it that weekend you left and went up to scout?
I think so, yeah. I think shortly after that we just went out to go scout out some spots.
So you'd made multiple trips up into the area, and it's not far, but it's also not a short drive either. And
No.
Yeah.
No, we did, driving up there. We drove every forest road, hiked every trail, every game trail, every logging road, everything to try to put that visual map in your head. And what you see in August, September is very different than what you're going to see late October as all those leaves are falling and stuff like that. But it's trying to put, for me, it was really hard to e-scout.
Sure.
I needed to be on the ground.
Yep.
Well, the country up there is relatively flat.
Very much so. Yep.
So it's not like you said, it's not like you can e-scout and be like, oh, well, here's my high glassing point. I can see into this face over here. You know, I mean, all the stuff that you were talking about before, like that boots on the ground stuff has to be invaluable. Were you guys finding some elk sign while you were walking around then?
Yeah, we were, and we found stuff, and we started to kind of had hopes where we would find areas and like say, okay, we kind of narrowed down. These are high probability areas. Here's where we're seeing some things. And then as it got closer and closer, narrowed down, the 100 spots we think are good to 10. And then we get it down to 5, and it's like, they like that young aspen and stuff like that. So active logging matters. And as they're moving around from track to tracks up there and timber opportunities become available for them to cut, some area where they might be this week, all of a sudden a logging operation moves in and it bumps them out.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, where did those folks go? Now I got to go try and find them again.
Yep.
And sometimes they run a long ways. Sometimes they stay pretty close. But
were you able to key in on areas of active logging, or I guess like logged areas, not active, where elk were getting in there? Like, I guess I equate it to, like, I grew up hunting Western Washington, a lot of timber company land, clear cuts, things of that nature. Like when we'd rifle hunt, we would focus a lot on clear cuts because that's where it's open, you can see, there's good browse in there.
Yep. Similar things, we'd find tracks, that are 1 to 3 years old, kind of watch and see what they're doing, see what kind of signs in there, see what kind of activities taking place. Yeah. Trying to go to some of those young aspen growths or some of the young birch kind of areas and focus on those rather than old timber or in the swampy areas and stuff like that.
Did the state provide any information, like any leads for you guys to go on?
Not really. I mean, a lot of it was they're not necessarily allowed to share any of the information specifically about the herd for obvious reasons. But we got help from locals and stuff too that gave us some pointers to where they've seen elk recently, so that was helpful to hear.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow. That is, and there's a fair amount of public land up there, but there's also quite a bit of private too. And what was navigating that?
Pretty easy, really. Sure. A lot of the resources that are online, a lot of folks like to use Onyx and other things. That's a very invaluable tool to help you determine land ownership as well as public, and it really spans a lot of different agencies too. And there's different rules based upon the ownership of that parcel, right, as to what you can and can't do and what you can drive on and what you can't. And so that was we were made well aware that we needed to make sure that we were in the right place at the right time and all of that. But the area up there, the Clam Lake range, because in the state there's 2 areas, Clam Lake and then Jackson County. The original introduction into Clam Lake area, that spans 5 counties and approximately 1,600 square miles. So you have a large area that has 350 elk in it approximately, and about 70% of that land is all public. So your access to public land is quite high. So the ability to find something on public is pretty good.
Sure. What were you guys seeing, or what did you find out as far as it's like, I know they call it like the Clam Lake herd, but I can't imagine it's, 350 elk, in one cohesive unit. Like I would imagine it's like a bunch of smaller herds that make up, the overall herd. How dispersed are they?
Vastly.
And
this year was kind of unique from the standpoint of they were quiet. We did not hear during rut, hardly any bulls bugling. So locating was very difficult.
Well, and I would imagine too, not to interrupt, but like, September in those woods, very dense foliage. Those bugles aren't going to travel, even if they are bugling, they're not going to travel that, you're not going to hear it like you would like in, across a valley in the west or something like that. Like it's going to get soaked up pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, there were instances where we got in on cows, and cows are milling through and feeding, and they're just like silent too. It's like they're not even chatting back and forth with each other, right? I mean, you and I have both found that out, and it's like, yeah, you could call to them or nothing. They wouldn't respond. You get within 50 yards of them sometimes, and they just would keep moving through.
Yep.
And it's like, man.
That is so cool.
So I'm like, what are we doing wrong? How come we can't find them?
Was that your first time, or even both your guys' first time, like being close to elk though?
Yeah, it's in the wild. Yeah, definitely my first time seeing them out west and stuff from a long distance, but nothing like this before.
What was that like being in the woods with them and having them be like 50? I mean, when you're close to elk in the timber, like that's cool. What were your thoughts there?
It was cool. They're definitely big animals. You never realize like how big they are until you see them up close. It's cool watching them just interact when they don't notice that you're there. Just watching them in their natural habitat, just doing their thing. It's cool to see.
You guys are a big step ahead of me. I've never seen a Wisconsin elk. I haven't seen one yet.
Tim Austin goes up there almost every weekend.
Does he?
Yep. He has pictures of him.
To the Black River Falls herd?
I think so, because I think they've got a place up there. It's not a far drive. He goes up and takes a peek at them on the regular.
If I ever draw a tag, I'm talking to Tim.
Yeah, different group though.
Different group.
True.
Yeah.
So they're not. The plan is to hopefully do that.
Yeah.
Their population goal is around 1,400 is where they would like to see the herd get to at some point. It is, like you mentioned, fully self-sustaining right now. Over the course of the years, they have added elk as to the reintroduction. So there was about 25 that they brought in initially in 95. There's been, I think it's 3 additional additions to it.
Okay.
Since then, and where the herd's at right now, both in the Jackson County and Clam Lake area, they're seeing around a 10% growth.
Okay.
Annually.
Yeah.
Boy, that's significant.
That's
yep.
good recruitment.
And it really is dependent upon that habitat and the impacts of the habitat. So as that ecosystem continues to evolve and timber tracks are cut and things like that, and new growth is there, that allows that herd to spread out and continue to grow and be healthy. Mm-hmm. Versus if all of that shut down, that herd would start to struggle a little bit more.
Sure.
Because it's not the environment that they like.
Yep.
I do want to backtrack a little bit because before you guys, well, I don't know, I guess I don't know the exact timeline, but we've just got this rifle sitting on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, Ryan, it sounds like you guys had a lot of discussion about the rifle and what to put on top of it. So why don't you, when I look at this thing, I go, well, that's not your traditional Wisconsin special.
No.
That's a little bit, that's an upgrade.
Yes.
Izzy, why don't you, what's going on with this rifle here? This isn't, like I said, this isn't your traditional kids these days with their rifles, Ryan.
Yeah, so it is a 7mm 08, and I've shot this chamber before. I like it, and I mean, we decided that this would be the best one for me to use, and the scope is the Viper PST, and I really like it. I think we had a lot of discussion about what would be best for using up north in more dense woods, and then that's what we decided on.
Super cool.
We were stuck between, I don't know, I think, what are we looking at, 3 different scopes?
Yeah, I think
3
like
or 4.
LH.
Yeah, LHT, Viper HS 2.5 to 10.
Yeah.
And Izzy told me it has to be easy, it has to be fast, and I think you really wanted an illuminated reticle, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And so as we're like piecing all this together, we looked at the 1 to 6, and I think that was actually like an afterthought. Like I don't know that we were actively pursuant of that. You picked it up, you loved it on 1X, and I think you loved the illumination, and 6X was more than enough for anything that you get yourself into out to 300 yards even. And I remember she said that one.
I'm glad I wasn't there because I would have definitely tried to talk you into more magnification.
But it's like I'd say she's quite a competent shooter. and she shoots PRS and other things and understands being able to get on targets, make decisions, make corrections, in those sorts of scenarios. So this was kind of a natural transition into it, to saying it's like, I know how these things function. I can get on the gun quick, make a decision. I'm used to not necessarily working on the high end of the magnification scope, right?
Gotcha. Right.
And that kind of thing, and being able to run the gun quick and efficiently. That's something she's really good at.
It was very refreshing to me because you came in not as your typical high schooler and knew exactly what you needed for a mission specific requirement to pull that off. And you singled out, I thought you were going to be between that or the 2.5 to 10 Viper HS. Not that I have a bias towards that optic.
No.
It was really quite remarkable how immediately you were just, nope, this is the design criteria that it has to be. You came in with a lot more experience than a lot of other people your age, and oftentimes much older, would have for this kind of thing, and nailed it. I think it was a fantastic choice. It was about the same time we recorded LPVOs for hunting.
Oh, no kidding, huh?
It was right around the same timeline. So it was very fresh in my mind. I was very excited.
It's a cool rifle.
Yep.
So we elected to do a 50-yard zero instead of your traditional 100-yard zero on this as well. Given the density of the terrain up there, like, okay, what's the probability of where our shot's going to be? It's going to be 0 to 200. So if we zero with the offset that these rings are at right now, it's 0 at 50, and it's a 1/2 inch low at 200. So you're good.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're in a 1.5 low at 4.
Yep.
So if we got a shot that we actually could have had time to shoot at 4, well, we can just dial 1.5 into it. She can get on it, send it. It's good.
Would you have run into that, like a shot that far?
We could on an egg field.
Sure.
If we would have gotten on an egg field to set up, and that would have been fine.
Yep.
That's where my head always gets with magnification, though. I'm like, I know that like 80 to 90 of my shots are going to be within this range. But then those what ifs start to creep in. I'm like, I need some more magnification.
Well, like, she did a fair amount of practicing with this configuration as well.
Yeah.
So, it's like we had steel targets set up from 50 to 250. And it was basically just be able to take 1 round impacts on a 4-inch piece of steel at all of those, run them out, run them back.
Yep.
And make sure every single one is a hit. And if you can do that every single time,
gravy.
It's going to be good.
Yep.
And she can do it all day long. So it worked out.
Perfection. That's so cool. I love it. Yeah, that is a sweet rig, man.
It was 140 grain Accubon, you said?
140 grain Nosler Accubon. Here's one of them.
It looks used.
It is slightly. I mean, I wouldn't recommend reloading it, but I mean, I think it did its job.
70% weight retention is what you calculated out.
Yep, he's sitting at about 98 grains right now. It was shot out of a Lapua case over Varget.
Yep.
CCI primers, pushing out of a 24-inch Bart line, 1-in-7 twist at about 2880.
Moving and
for
grooving.
around here.
Yep.
That's great.
So that gave us still at 400 yards, right around still retained velocity at 2200 and a little over 1500 foot-pounds of energy.
Everything you need.
I think, we're well within the design parameters of that bullet. We're making sure that we didn't, we're pushing it fast enough. It's going to get that full expansion that you'd hope.
Mm-hmm.
And it did that.
And it did. I mean, that when you look at pictures of Nosler Accubons in magazines, when they shoot them into gel or water, that's what they look like. It turns out they look like that when you push them into an elk tube.
Yep.
That's pretty. This was the most exciting. I'm very excited you killed an elk. I was very, very excited that you brought in a bullet. That's even neater.
Ryan's very disappointed with me. I shot a bull this fall, and then I
brought me 0
I
bullets.
left the
Wow.
Yeah,
projectiles in
gassed that he got one. I was super
there.
excited.
We were busy,
Did you touch a bullet?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Just on
Just
the
put it in your pocket?
Well, it was just on the inside of that, so I didn't recover it. I could just feel it.
See, all that's inconsequential to him. He's just.
It's not. It was a large oversight. We can talk about this later. Izzy, How did you get into hunting? I'd love to know, like, how did you get into hunting? Was this the first big game animal you killed? Had you shot several deer in Wisconsin before? What's your hunting story look like?
Yeah, so I've always been active in the outdoors ever since I was really, really little. Been target shooting ever since I was, I don't know, really, really young.
Okay.
Eventually brought me along on hunts with him, and I just watched him go out, and we would always just go out in the woods and share that experience. And then when I finally got old enough that I could do that myself, I fell in love with it. I mean, it's a big part of what I do as well. And the elk was clearly the biggest animal I've ever harvested, but I do hunt whitetail and other small game animals as well. So I've been doing that for years as well.
Very cool. What's your favorite thing to hunt?
Antelope. Besides the elk, antelope was my other best experience I think I've ever had.
That's super cool. You and Ryan are kindred spirits.
It's the best hunt probably.
It is. I don't know why.
Have you done mule deer yet?
I have not. No.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to say it's better than mule deer yet. It's just so enjoyable.
It's all great.
Yes.
It's all great.
So you use the 7mm08 on pretty much that's your hunting caliber.
Yeah, use it on the antelope too.
I love that that's what you picked. We're actually coincidentally talking about, and we do periodically talking about the 708 this morning.
Yep.
And just that it really is just it gets overlooked, but it shouldn't. It really is so capable, so efficient, so cool, so modern. It's really one of those. I mean, really, I guess all the attributes. Surprise, surprise, of a 308 and a 7mm package.
Yeah. I mean, as you'd mentioned, 140 grain bonded bullet, mid to upper 28s, high BC, slippery projectile. What else is there? I mean, you have to upclass in cartridge significantly to gain something tangible. So
yeah, low recoil,
yep,
short action,
yep,
high availability for those who don't reload.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it works.
Yep.
It's
within
good.
its parameters, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but it does a really good job, I think.
It's one you don't hear about as much as you should, I feel.
Gosh.
Okay. Back to the hunt.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't want to,
Yeah, any other, we can, yeah.
Or what else?
I don't know. It's a chassis.
What chassis is that?
MDT LSS.
You shoot that on your competition gun too?
It's been changed out a few times,
Sure.
but
She's shooting gas gun now.
Oh. Well then.
Nice.
Same feel.
Same feel.
Yep.
But trigger deck special.
Yep.
2 pounds. Clean break. Nice. Balances well. She'll get it when she'll get into it later, but yeah, she's shot off tripod.
Sure.
Cool. So you're talking about being in the woods with these elk, they're filtering through, not talking a little bit. How long did it take you to find elk? Like how many days of hunting, or how many days of scouting until you found elk, and then how many days of hunting until you found elk?
Well, it wasn't too long after I got the phone call from the DNR that we were up there starting. Way premature.
Yeah.
But you're not. I mean, it's time you get to spend with your family. It's things you're doing all out there the whole time anyways. So it's like there's a lot of value into whether you're looking for the elk or you're just exploring the area and all the things that the state has to offer.
Yep.
From a hunt perspective, we had 3 areas where they were showing up every day that I had like nailed down. Morning spots, night spot, and like an alternate spot for 3 days prior to opening day. And then, of course, when opening day comes, they're gone. They were nowhere to be found.
They couldn't have felt the pressure, though.
Somebody called them. I think the DNR called them.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
A few beeps on the collar, and they're out of there.
A few beeps on the collar, and they knew it was time to. Yeah, they knew we were so. But it's just the nature of what they do, right? And they move around and they do their thing. And we didn't have great weather to start. We had a couple days of near to at around freezing fog, heavy fog.
Okay.
So you're going out, you're in dense fog.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's like, what do? You just kind of got to wait for the fog to burn off and see what you can find. And there's even rain the day that you got them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we wound up in hunting 5 days.
Okay. Gotcha. You hunted 5 days. Okay. Were you seeing elk before you ended up killing this bull?
During the hunt or like when we were scouting before the season opened?
Both.
Before the season opened, we didn't really see much, just some smaller bulls maybe once in a while, but mainly saw cows every now and again.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, when the season opened, it's like they were all gone. We didn't see them anywhere for 3 or 4 days, and then the only thing we saw were a few cows. And then a couple days later, that's when I got my bull. So,
give us the rundown on the day you killed your bull. How did that go?
well, we started out in the morning near Clam Lake. We were checking out our regular spots, and it was kind of rainy, like you said. Weren't seeing anything. This was one of the last days that I was going to be up there. So, feeling the pressure and getting stressed out, being like, I don't want to miss this opportunity. We ended up trying a new area that we've never been to before and being like, all right.
Because, we went there a few days before, right?
Yeah.
And kind of scouted out and like, okay, our known areas aren't producing. And then she's like, I think this area might be worth going and exploring. Let's go down there and see what we can do.
Cool.
And so, she made the call, like,
Let's go there.
Let's go here and see
I was
what
like,
see
why not
what happens.
try anything at this point?
We're trying something different. When things keep doing the same thing and it's not working, time to pivot. Let's go do something else.
Sometimes too, I just feel like, and it's hard to break away from like what you're like, we've been here. I know there's elk here, but sometimes like it's the mental rejuvenation of like trying a new spot. Like you're just like, all right, let's go. Like anything can happen now,
Yep.
Yeah, so I got my bull closer to when the sun was going down. So again, I was really feeling the pressure. I'm like, when I saw that sun going down, I'm like, all right, this is it. I missed it, but there were 3 of us there. It was me, my dad, and his friend, and we were all stationed in 3 different spots on some different ag fields.
Mm-hmm.
We were on the edge of we'd spoken to a farmer and asked if we could gain access to his property, and his property was a boundary between public and private.
Okay, gotcha.
So he'd granted us permission to be able to access through there. So we were kind of setting up. We were real close to each other, but we could kind of get the different views of the area to say, hey, are they going to happen to come out, from the north or from the east? Or so we kind of positioned ourselves up to see if we could all kind of look in a little bit different directions to see what would happen.
Did he have any information on like, oh yeah, the elk have been coming out here a little bit?
I think he said last time he saw him was like 2 weeks prior.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
So nothing really recent, but I mean, I still just had like a small feeling. I'm like, I just want to try it. Let's just go here. But my dad and I were facing towards the same field-ish, and then his buddy was over facing another field. And then as I'm starting to get kind of packed up, I'm like, all right, day's over, gotta head in. So I'm trying to carry my backpack, tripod, and got the rifle with me, and I'm like stepping as quietly as I can, and all of a sudden it looks up in this field and there's 15 elk. And after seeing none almost the entire hunt, it's like, oh my God, like this is it.
Yeah.
And I'm shaking and I'm shaking. I'm like, okay, calm down. Like you just gotta calm down. And I finally get my tripod down and I got it set up and put my rifle on it, and I'm looking and I'm like, all right, there's this big bull right there standing right in front of me, and the other smaller bulls are running around chasing each other, and it was super neat to see them in that like natural habitat like I was saying earlier. But
Why did that bull come running though?
yeah, I was about to I had the cow call in my mouth, and I started calling at them. All of a sudden they all picked up their heads, and I'm like, shoot, I just got busted. All of them are looking right at me, but then all of a sudden he starts running straight towards me, and I'm like, okay, well, I didn't expect that, but I mean, I guess it works. And I keep calling, and I'm shaking, and I finally get myself to calm down. And then stands broadside, and I'm finally able to take that shot and then successfully harvest my bull.
Yep.
That is so cool. And it was the big bull in the
he,
bunch?
he
that
was,
came
he was
running?
the herd bull for it. And where I was positioned, I couldn't see her
Oh, no.
at all.
You just hear booming.
Oh, no, shortly a few seconds before it, all of a sudden I heard a cow bark.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, what just happened? And then all of a sudden I heard the boom. But 4 cows came out of the woods right next to her.
Oh, no way.
Separate from the group that was milling around a further distance away. So they came out and then they saw her. And then that's when they barked, and that's what I heard. And then, then she put the shot on him, and he didn't go anywhere. He went
dropped
and dropped him right there.
How far of a shot was it?
Roughly 70, 80 yards.
I still would have talked into more magnification.
See, one power worked perfect.
Did you shoot him on 1X?
I think it was probably around 2 or 4-ish, somewhere in between there.
It was slow.
Yep.
That is so cool. And you broadside when you shot him?
Yes, he was.
So we kind of had the thing going into it. It's like, it's wet, it's raining. If you shoot him, and if he doesn't go down instant, take another shot.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And just like, if he's still standing, you just keep shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And she took 2 shots.
Yep.
So first shot hit him. He spun 180 degrees. She shot him again.
Perfect.
Those 2 shots were less than 2 seconds apart from each other. So it was like bang, bang. And it was like,
The PRS does something.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
a lot of
it was
practice.
that, putting it in.
Yeah.
Well, and then when we recovered one of the bullets, the other one was a pass-through. I mean, considering one was shot from the driver's side, one from the passenger, those 2 holes were less than 2 inches apart from each other all the way through. So you could see the 2 holes on the both sides of him.
Yep.
So it's like for such a dynamic environment, it's like,
that is awesome.
she did a great job.
Which of the shots did he keep with him?
I'm not sure which one that was.
Which bullet it is, I'm not exactly sure.
Oh,
which
okay,
bullet it was.
gotcha.
Yeah, if it was the first one or the second one.
And he was
wild.
a large elk.
Yeah.
Body wise, his rack doesn't do him justice, I don't think.
Yeah.
When you see the pictures of him, as like his body was great. But that's not why we were there.
Oh, yeah,
It's like we chatted about it as like the experience of being there and being able to hunt and being able to have a successful harvest was higher on our priority list than saying we need the biggest 6x6 or 7x7 that's going to be out there. It's like we get one opportunity to do this. We're quite thankful we get that opportunity. It worked out great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But there was, so there are some unique things that may be a challenge for other hunters. The way the laws are written, you can only divide this bull up into 5 pieces to get him out of the woods.
They have that rule for elk too?
In the state right now. So that always sat in the back of our minds is like, how are we going to get this guy out of here? If we're in some thick timber spot and it's the 3 of us, my wife, my daughter, myself, how are we going to get this dude out? So we had my truck with a small little snowmobile trailer with an ATV on it, and we'd go like stage that somewhere for the day and then drive around in another vehicle. But fortunately that evening, since we were close to this gentleman's property, went back to his house and said, hey, I see you got that big loader over there. I'm like, what do you think of coming out here and picking that guy up and throwing him in the back of my truck? And so he's like,
that's what you're like using reverse psychology. I bet your loader can't pick up a whole elk.
And it worked out phenomenally. So it was great. When you think of it, it's like, how are we going to move this big dude when you can't break him down?
Yeah.
That's wild. I did not realize that was on the books for elk.
Yeah, so we had like our little jet sled too, and figured, okay, if we have to, we could drag that through the woods and maybe get it to an ATV trail or some other place where we could get a vehicle in and take it out somehow, maybe.
Was he pretty excited for you guys?
He was. Yeah.
Cool.
He did it. Yeah, he was he was very helpful. It was great that he allowed us the opportunity to for those individuals, that have private land and they do offer it to hunters, I hope they know most all of us greatly appreciate the sacrifices that they give. They don't always have to do that, so it was quite nice that gentleman did that.
What kind of egg? What was in the fields?
It was just alfalfa.
The alfalfa, yeah. He
Okay.
just had alfalfa on there at the time.
Oh, I imagine you guys saved a little bit of alfalfa for him that year all at the same time.
Yeah, that's a whole really interesting topic too on itself with depredation and losses to egg. That we could go down that path too if you wanted. For
sure. Well, one thing I don't want to ignore, and we're talking about the bull and and how big he is and the age of the bull, and Ryan's holding it up. Old number 508, Izzy, he was collared. So what did you guys learn about this bull after you harvested it?
We learned a lot of good information, actually. It was actually really neat to learn because when you harvest a bull, you also get all the information that's on the tracker that they've had.
Mm-hmm.
So we learned about where he's been, where they've been traveling, and we actually learned that the day that I harvested him, he ended up walking about 2-3 miles and crossing a river just to get to that field where I then harvested him. But you learn a lot about their patterns and where they're going and everything about that. It was cool to learn about.
What did they age the bull?
Yeah, they estimated about 6 years.
6 years old. Golly, that's an old bull, man.
Yeah.
That's a long time in elk years.
He is. Yeah, he was he was a Wisconsin-born elk.
That's cool too.
Yeah,
yep.
right?
Yep. So, as I kind of mentioned earlier, they'd done a couple reintroduction efforts and brought some additional ones into it. So we can say that he was one that he spent his whole life here.
Yep.
So it was pretty neat.
Do they give you a map where you can see where he's been around?
Mm-hmm.
How many miles? Because he wasn't collared as a calf. He was collared as a bull, as an adult, right?
Yep. He was collared in late January of 2023, and we harvested him in late October of 2023. So he'd only had that collar on roughly those 9 months.
They give you like a Fitbit total on?
No.
Was he getting his steps in?
He just based on the locations, he moved around tonight. He was healthy. But they're not a continuous ping.
Sure.
These collars weren't, so they're maybe once or twice a day. You're kind of getting those broad brush strokes of where he was going, rather than the real time updates on him.
Remarkable to think that morning he was 3 miles away.
Yeah, it takes there's a lot of other places he could have gone. It's like, what are the chances that he happened to be there right when we were there?
Yeah.
Kind of going to what you guys were mentioning earlier, like out west, and if they're bugling and you're looking cross canyon, you can see that 3 miles.
Yeah.
When you're in dense timber, 3 miles they might as well be on the other side of the state.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a needle in a haystack. That is so cool. Anything else you learn about the bull from the biologist, via collar data or aging or?
Due to some of the ag damage in the area, they had relocated a vast majority of the elk that were in this area. So in that January time frame, they had penned in approximately 20 elk, and they left this bull, 1 cow, and her calf, and then they moved all the rest of them to another part of the range.
Interesting.
So to see that he had found all these other ones back in this area again, it's like they are moving around quite a bit, and this was the largest single group that we had seen.
Sure.
It wasn't uncommon for us to find like 1 bull and 4 or 5 cows.
Mm-hmm.
So not as typical as having a herd bull, a bunch of satellite bulls, and then all these cows. It was like we'd find these lot more small pockets. At least that's what we were seeing. So this was the largest group that we had seen in any one spot.
That is super cool. I'm going through my printouts now, making sure I didn't miss anything, Ryan.
Glad you brought him, Mark.
This is an important part of podcasting. I got a question, Izzy. What, maybe talk, and you did earlier, but like how big a piece hunting is to your life, and what you might say to other kids like your age or even younger, and their parents about like getting their kids into hunting and what it means to you.
Yeah, so like I said, I grew up a lot doing a lot of this and learning a lot about conservation specifically too, and he has brought me along with so much stuff and helped me learn so much more than the average person. And I'm so thankful for the opportunities that I have had, especially when I go out hunting. I'm always thankful that I have the opportunity to do that. What I'd say to people who, especially kids who want to get into it, don't be afraid of what other people think. I think that especially for young girls, it can be kind of hard to want to engage in things that you don't see a lot of representation for.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that just don't worry about what other people think of you. Just do what you want to do. I think that was a big part that I had to learn in a lot of things, especially with my PRS competitions too that I do. That plays a big role into that, and it's like I'd love to see more girls doing that, even just kids in general. Just seeing them there and that, just getting them out there. For parents who want to get their kids into this, just bring them along with you. I mean, you don't have to do tons of crazy things and go on these super expensive hunts out west. Just bring him outside with you. I mean, that's how we started, and it's just bringing me along on his hunts. And it's like, that's like a big learning part of how I came to do all this stuff I do today.
Awesome. Perfect. I love it.
Would you do it again?
Yes, in a heartbeat.
Good.
So you drew the tag.
Yes.
I'm just trying to do some logistics. And you
transferred it to
her.
So she got it for her 16th birthday. So that was her gift, was the tag for her 16th birthday.
That is, that's a big birthday gift.
It is.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
So can you not draw a tag again?
I'm out.
But can she draw a tag?
Nope.
She's out.
Both out.
We're done.
That's it.
We are done.
Good note to land on, though.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, truly.
She can still get drawn,
yeah,
though.
Mom will get drawn.
Mom's still in the mix.
Oh, yeah, Mom's in the mix, and her name is definitely going in again this year. And it's like, if I could, could you imagine if Mom gets a bigger bull than daughter?
I think we got to get a full body mount right in the center of the living room.
Yeah, take up the whole living room. If Mom got one, yeah, that'd be awesome.
I think that makes a lot of
sense. If that happens, I'm going to have you start doing my applications.
The
state of New Mexico doesn't know that I exist, is my running theory. I apply there a lot. It's the same thing, red X's every year.
I hear you. We've struck out quite a bit.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we have had a successful antelope hunt out in Wyoming, did a DIY kind of hunt, and
that's awesome. Well, you struck gold with this one, and it really is cool how, and you mentioned this before, but I mean, really everybody got this bull, you know, and that's neat. You know, you're talking about, hey, just go out and just, you know, and it is more than just getting an elk or getting a deer. And but this is a big deal and a really cool story, and just the way it unfolded and how hard you guys scouted and how hard you hunted and how it worked out. You know, it's I don't know, you couldn't picture it going any better.
No, it was great. All of us got to participate in it, enjoy time with each other as a whole, as a family and friends. And a lot of those folks who do hunting, they get that. They understand what that's like. It's not getting the bull on the ground. It's everything else that goes into it. You know, that time you spent, you're being in the environment, you're seeing all these other critters that are out there, all the bears you see, the wolves, the whatever. You know, and
did you flush a lot of grouse?
Asking for a friend.
Yeah. I know where there's some. If you're curious, you know, you were trying to call in a cow one night, and we had a wolf come running up down the trail.
Did you have to see
it
one?
was neat.
Yeah, we've seen a few of them, but yeah, she was trying to call a couple cows one night, and yeah, here comes a wolf running up the hiking trail that we were on.
Was he coming to your calling?
He was coming in, and then based on the way the wind was going, I saw him and I watched him, and then he tried to do a big loop around, and then once he got around, because he was downwind of us, then he backed back out again. But
that's cool, man. That's another neat thing to see.
What's your favorite way to eat elk?
I don't know. Roast are pretty good.
Yeah.
Got the roast. Got plenty of. Yeah, we got a freezer full.
There's a lot.
The freezer's full, and then she goes and shoots a deer on opening day of gun deer season, and then it's like, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess Dad's not pulling the trigger at all this year. So
Yeah, I have a feeling if they get in front of you, they don't have too much of a chance.
Well, it's a lot of practice. I'll say that.
Super
But I think
cool.
that's important, right? For anyone
Mm-hmm.
who wants to do this, it's great. You know, a lot of guns will shoot really small groups on a bench, but it's like, well, what's it like when I'm actually in the woods?
Yeah.
And we try to set up a lot of those sort of scenarios and practice those scenarios. It's like, well, what if you want to use a branch off a tree, or there's bushes in the way and there's obstacles, or your backpack, or off a tripod? And, you know, that's what she did. She used that little Arca rail on the front, put it in the tripod, and then shot it standing off the back of a tripod.
Yep.
You know, and that's a skill you really have to practice.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds easy, right? Until people actually try and shoot off a tripod, and you're like, oh, can I hit a 2 or 4 inch circle at a couple hundred yards off a tripod?
Yep.
It's a lot harder until you practice it a little bit.
I'd be like, can I get that Arca rail in the tripod when I have an elk standing in front of me?
And that's, I got to give her a ton of credit, right?
It's composure.
She set it up. She set the tripod up, set the gun up on her own. She called the elk in on her own. So it was like, there's a million moving pieces out here in a high stress environment, and she put it all together flawlessly.
Awesome. So cool. Dare to dream, Ryan.
Hey, man.
Could be us.
It could be us.
For $10, it could be you.
For $10, it could be
If you draw, I will go with you and help you carry that elk.
I would appreciate that, because apparently we only get 5 pieces for an elk too.
Yeah. We know a few folks who are familiar with the area, so we could let you know.
I mean, that is one thing that's cool about these, you know, really any hunt where there's such limited opportunity. It's generally not too hard to convince people to go with you, because, like you said, you want to like somebody goes, oh my gosh, I get a chance to be a part of a Wisconsin elk hunt, or I get a chance to be a part of somebody else's sheep hunting, and just glassing and being they're just, you know, you just don't get those opportunities very often.
It's like going to Mars.
Like going to Mars.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well. Izzy, you are the youngest person to shoot an elk in Wisconsin, yes?
Yep, the only youth so far.
The only youth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're in one of one.
One of one.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal. Well, it looks and sounds like you did it with lots of experience and gusto and like we said earlier, it just couldn't have worked out better. So super stoked for you guys. What an experience.
Yeah, I'm so thankful for it.
It's pretty neat, right? You know, I think we got to give credit to the DNR for the work that they've done in managing this herd, as well as the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. If it wasn't for the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and on their efforts, not only financially as well as, you know, boots on the ground, none of us would have this opportunity to be able to do it. So, you know, I would highly encourage everyone, if you're able to, you know, to give back to those organizations, as well as any other local groups and conservation efforts. We're involved with some of the ones locally as well around here. These resources are only here because of a lot of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears put on by a lot of people. And I think it's imperative that, you know, us as parents instill that onto our children, the value of all these resources that are out there, so that they are there for them to enjoy in the future. And if we're not putting in the time and the effort, these resources won't be available to them. So, yeah, it's get out there, make sure the environment's good for them. You know, donate where you can. You know, little projects, get your kids out there, spend the time in the woods. You know, make sure these resources, whether it's the fish, the birds, the deer, the elk, they're there for the generations to come.
Absolutely. Well, Izzy, congratulations.
Thank you.
What a big deal. Congratulations to your whole family. Incredible hunt, incredible story. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for sharing the story with us and bringing in all this cool stuff, all these cool, just, you know, totems and to the memories of the hunt. It's all really neat stuff. And like you said, thanks to the RMEF and the DNR and all the volunteer work and just all the work that went into putting these elk in Wisconsin. It's a pretty big deal, and we're fortunate to have them, and hopefully we'll have more of them.
I hope so.
Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Awesome. And thanks everybody for listening. And like we said earlier, even though I'm probably decreasing our odds, Ryan, if you get a chance, apply for the elk tag, and could be you.
Could be me.
Or me.
Yeah, it won't be either one of us.
You guys are out. But all right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, guys. Take care. We'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.
Bye.